In this video, I wanted to see if I could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Soul Silver with no evolutions. That's right, in this run I'm going to be attempting to get through Johto with no Pokémon that have evolved and no single stage Pokémon. If that wasn't hard enough, I've decided to add one little twist that is going to take this difficult run to the next level. If a single one of my Pokémon faint at any point during this run, it's game over and I have to restart. I'm going to need to use every possible advantage I can get my hands on then if I want a chance of winning, because under these hardcore Nuzlocke rules, if a Pokemon faints then the run is over. I can also only catch the first eligible encounter per area. The rest of the rules for this run can be seen on screen now and in the description. Do I have what it takes to beat what could quickly turn into one of the hardest runs I've ever done? Let's find out. So we start our adventure like any other, and that means picking our starter. Now a lot of the early game of this run will probably be very similar to any other Johto run. It's the late game that's going to be a challenge. That's why I need to be thinking about the late game immediately, and because of this I decide to go for Cyndaquil on this first attempt. Chikorita is kind of just useless in Johto. Now I could see the argument for Totodile, but honestly you get a lot of water types, so in my mind the rarer fire type makes the most sense. Welcome aboard, Buzz. After running back and forth for about 15 minutes and a catching tutorial, we're able to finally start this run for real, and that means we get our early game encounters. Honestly, I get so many encounters during this run, and a lot of them are kind of pointless, so I'll only be mentioning the important ones. Luckily, the first of our encounters is one of the important ones, as I find a Hoot I name Sid. Now carrying on through Route 29, I could head north to Route 46, where I could find either a Rattata or a Geodude. Now Geodude pretty much completely solos the first two gyms, so I'd like to guarantee this encounter. That means instead of heading north, I carry on past Cherry Grove to Route 30, where I get lucky and find a Rattata. RC is actually really useful just by herself, but finding her means I can head back to Route 46 and get a guaranteed Geodude. As I said, Jessie walks all over the first couple of gyms, so I'm excited to see what she can do. Heading past Violet City onto Route 32, I catch another useful encounter, and Ekans we name Snake. You may be wondering why Snake is in any way useful, and there's literally only one reason, and that's Intimidate. In a run where mid and late game all of my Pokemon are likely to be one or two shot, having an ability that freely weakens the vast majority of Pokemon is a godsend. That just leaves one more encounter to grab. Inside the Violet City Pokemon Center, I can talk to this wannabe influencer who, after being given the secret phrase of Leaf Guard East Effect Spore Normalize, will give me an egg containing a Wooper. I picked Molly here because she has Water Absorb, meaning she's a great switch in. Also, I don't have any other water types at the moment, so it just kind of made sense. After collecting all of our available encounters then, and beating up some monks who seem to worship the fleshlight plant Pokemon, hey, I'm not going to judge, it's time for our first gym challenge of the run. Now this gym isn't completely free because both of Falconer's birds like to use Sand Attack, and if I get seriously unlucky, I could theoretically lose. Thankfully though, Jessie manages to pull through and KO the first small bird with the single rock throw. The second slightly bigger bird does survive the first rock throw, but it only takes one more to knock it out and win us our first gym badge of the run. Easy. With Falconer and his birds brought down by just throwing a couple of rocks at them then, I can head south and eventually reach Union Cave. Now in Union Cave, I can either find a Sandshrew or an Onyx here. Now it's actually really important I get an Onyx here and not a Sandshrew, because getting an Onyx means I'm guaranteed one of the most important Pokemon in this run later on. To guarantee an Onyx though, I have to wait until I have Surf, which will give me access to the lower levels of this cave that don't have Sandshrew. That means skipping my Union Cave encounter for now. Once I exit Union Cave, I actually decide to save a lot of these encounters until I get Headbutt after the next gym. That means we've got nothing else to do but defeat our first easy Team Rocket admin and save some Slowpokes before we're ready for our second gym battle of the run. Like the first gym fight, Bugsy shouldn't be too difficult unless I get unlucky, so let's jump in. Once again, my plan is the same as in our first gym fight, throwing rocks and hoping for the best. Bugsy starts with his ace Scyther, who starts the fight by setting up a Focus Energy. Okay, this could get bad fast. Luckily, Jessie immediately lands a rock throw that of course misses the KO. Gotta love that minus attack nature. Jessie failing to KO means she has to take a really strong U-turn on the following turn, but she doesn't get crit at the very least. Rock throw then hits the Metapod Bugsy sends out really hard, but fails to KO. No matter how weak Jessie's attacks are though, at the end of the day a Metapod is still just a Metapod, round. So 2 more rock throws, pick up our first easy KO. Then Bugsy sends his ace back out, and I think if I get crit here, Jessie might go down. Still, the best hope I have of winning this fight quickly though is just going through another rock throw, so I hope and pray that Jessie can take this hit and Cypher just goes through another focus energy. Bugsy just threw hard. Not complaining though, as Bugsy throwing means another rock takes down the scary ace, and then 1 more rock throw takes down his last bug. Okay, a bit of bad luck there, and that could have gone south quickly, but overall we got through that pretty easily. Second gym down, but unfortunately I'm now entering the point of this run where not evolving my Pokemon is going to start becoming an issue. You should probably do something to wish me luck. Maybe leave a like if you've been enjoying so far and subscribing for more content in the future. Maybe yes, no? Oh fine, let's just carry on with the run then. Now, before we're able to leave town and carry on with our adventure, we get ambushed by our rival. I'm slightly worried about this fight because by this point our rival has evolved his starter into a Croconaw and I really don't have any answers for it. Amusingly though, I was clearly worried for no reason because RC is able to completely solo this fight without taking a single hit. Your rival is kind of poo in this game, isn't he? I'm then able to head into Ilex Forest, and that means I get access to the move tutor that will teach my Pokemon Headbutt. Headbutt gives me access to loads of new encounters, the first of which is a Spearow I named Throg. Throg is probably the best normal flying type I could get in this run, so he's a welcome addition to my team. Another useful encounter I get by throwing my rat at some trees in Azalea Town is an Apom I name Ham. Ham should be a really useful support Pokemon, and its stats actually aren't that bad. There's a couple Pokemon like this that have fairly good stats for basic Pokemon. This is because when Gold and Silver came out, they didn't have an evolution, and therefore they're almost as good as single stage Pokemon, which always tend to be a bit stronger than regular unevolved Pokemon. Moving on past Ilex Forest then, I run into an Abra. Abra, thanks to its high speed and special attack, will probably be really useful. Only problem is that I'm not likely to catch this thing because if one Pokeball fails, it will teleport. Fingers crossed this works then. Oh my god, I actually caught it. I'm sure that's going to make a massive impact on the rest of this run. Can't wait to use Wheezy. Wonder when it will learn a move that it can use. Oh, well, Wheezy is just going on the shelf then and not coming down. At least heading north from Goldenrod onto Route 35, we're able to find an actually useful psychic type, a bundle of eggs I named Dolly. Next, we're able to head into the national park where I have the chance to find probably the best encounter I could get in this run. That's right, we're looking for a Cypher. Now, I've already gotten a Weedle, but there's still a chance I could get a Caterpie, Paris, or Venonat here instead of what I want. Fingers crossed then, and I get insanely lucky and actually find a Cypher who also has Technician. That's going to be so huge going forward. Woody is going to help so much. Unfortunately, while Woody is going to be a huge help for the rest of this game, before I can reach the rest of this game, I've got a pretty massive roadblock to get past. That's right, it's time for Whitney. I do have a pretty decent plan to handle her here, but Whitney can easily end runs if she feels like it, especially with a bit of bad luck. Let's hope this goes well then. My plan here is to get Jessie in against the Miltank with as little damage as possible taken, so I start with Dolly, while Whitney starts with her Clefairy. I'm hoping to take this thing down as quickly as possible before it can get off too many metronomes. So turn 1 I outspeed and land a Hypnosis. Perfect. I'm then able to set up a Leech Seed while the Clefairy naps. With Clefairy asleep, I switch into Woody. Woody then lands a Pursuit that very nearly KOs before the Clefairy wakes up and lands a Cross Chop that thankfully doesn't really do anything. Whitney then heals with a potion before a second Pursuit brings the pink ball down to 50%. I annoyingly then get immobilized by Love for 2 turns, but Leech Seed Chip still means the Clefairy will go down next turn. I decide then this is the perfect moment to bring Jessie in, as she'll more than likely be at full health to handle the Murder Cow. Oh no. Well, Jessie survived, but my counter to Miltank is now at 12 HP as Whitney sends in her ace. Okay, we'll still be fine, I'm sure, just gonna have to get lucky with Leech Seed. So I switch into Dolly, who takes a hard stomp. Right, just have to land 1 Leech Seed here and we'll be in such a better spot, but of course, the Miltank then lands an Attract. But you know, still got enough HP to take a couple of attacks here, just need Dolly to break through once. Right, now I'm in real trouble. Only way I can see myself getting out of this without anybody dying is Intimidate spam, so I switch into Snake, who takes a fairly hard stomp even after lowering the Fat Cow's attack. I then start switching back and forth between RC and Snake. A single crit right now will end this run, but I'm out of options. I'm able to get Snake in 4 times before he's brought down to 2 HP. Jesus. Okay, Snake's alive and the cow's at -4. Here's hoping I can now KO, so I switch into RC on a rollout. Rollout is so bad because even with the attack drops, it's starting to build power every time it hits. What's worse is RC lands a headbutt for next to no damage. With Miltank on its 3rd rollout when I switch then, I can't rely on Woody to take the super effective hit. That means it's all going to come down to Jessie. So I switch her in and she's brought down to 9 HP. Okay, looks like it's the end at this point. Even with Miltank missing a rollout on the following turn, 2 magnitudes barely even scratch the cow. All I can do is watch and wait for 2 more stomps to end this run then, but Jessie says not today because somehow she lands a magnitude 9 that crits, winning us the gym battle. Holy Jessie, you absolute mad girl. You are so the MVP. I can't believe we just got through that. I feel like I was watching an anime battle. By far the closest gym battle I think I've ever had on this channel, but somehow we've defeated Whitney and have claimed our 3rd gym badge. Moving on from Whitney then, we actually don't get any more notable encounters before our next gym, but I do grab the HM Surf that will become super important as soon as we get the gym badge to use it outside of battle. Speaking of which, it's time to battle Morty, the ghost type gym leader, and if you've ever watched somebody play through Johto before, you should know how this goes. Basically, if you've got one half decent normal type, this fight is completely 3. RC is able to KO the first Ghastly with a crunch, and then the first Haunter also falls to a crunch. Sid is then able to come in when the Gengar is sent out, stall out sucker punches, and then KO with confusions while being completely immune to Gengar's attacks. Last is the second Haunter, who after cutting its own HP in half with a curse, goes down to a single confusion. That was a stupidly easy 4th gym badge. I have a question. Is there any gym leader in a Pokemon game 3 of the Morty? Because I honestly can't think of one. Let me know in the comments if you can think of one that is even easier. Now that Morty has been defeated in what will go down as one of the hardest gym fights I've ever done, we've unlocked the ability to use Surf, and the map has really opened up to us. That means we've got quite a lot to do before our next gym fight. Firstly, we can go and grab the choice specs at the Lake of Rage. Choice items are really useful for bridging the gap in power that I'm going to start experiencing between my Pokemon and everyone else's from this point. Next, I'm able to backtrack to Union Cave and catch myself an Onix. Buster isn't as useless as most Onixes are because he's got some decent defense and speed. His real value though is by catching him, I can't get him somewhere else, meaning I'm guaranteed something really strong. Onix always gets the short end of the stick. Even when it's mildly useful, its main purpose is still only to guarantee me something better. Kind of feel bad for Onix, if I'm honest. Anyway, moving on, we're able to catch a Pokemon that is far from mediocre. On Route 39, we're able to catch a Magnemite we name Andy. Steel types are always super broken in these early gens, and I don't have any other electric types, so Andy is just what I need. Heading into Olivine City, I can grab the Good Rod, which gives me access to one of the best Pokemon in this run. I can fish up a Staryu I named Jessie. Yes, Jessie again, don't question it. Jessie is super fast, has good special attack, and a really busted moveset, so she'll be vital going forward. Heading into the ocean then, I'm able to get 2 more water types, a Tentacool I named Bullseye, and a Chinchou I named Mrs. Potato. I'll be honest, Tentacool is just here for toxic spikes, and Chinchou is here for her resistances to water and electric, but hey, the more the merrier, right? With that all out the way then, it's time for our 5th gym battle of the run, this time against Chuck, the fighting type gym leader. I did come up with a plan to set up with toxic spikes and stall with Ghastly and Wooper, who are immune to Poliwrath's fighting and water moves, but then I realized something. I could just click wing attack twice and win. Johto mid-game is kind of easy, isn't it? With that joke of the gym fight out the way then, we can move on and deliver some medicine to Jasmine at the top of the lighthouse. Anyone else think it's a bit strange? Jasmine just accepts our word that we've bought her medicine. Like, for all she knows, I just gave her some mints from my pocket. Kind of irresponsible if you ask me, but it doesn't matter because it means we can go fight our next gym battle. Before that though, we get access to 1 extra Pokemon. Inside the Cliff Cave, thanks to having caught Onix, we're guaranteed a Misdreavus. Misdreavus is simply excellent. Hannah is a ghost type with Levitate, meaning she has loads of immunities, and she's another one of those Pokemon that didn't always have another evolution, meaning her stats are a fair bit better than most unevolved Pokemon. Hannah is going to be a key part of my team going forward. That's actually all we've got to do before our next gym battle. I mean, other than some Team Rocket stuff, but these fights are really easy, even with our unevolved Pokemon, because of our level advantage. That means it's time for Price and his ice types. Price's Piloswine is actually kind of threatening because it would probably one-shot the majority of my Pokemon, but I do have a pretty simple plan to handle this. Price starts with Seal and I start with Andy. Andy is able to one-shot the Seal with a Thunderbolt. Then the Ace comes out, and with Choice Specs, Jessie can easily KO with a Surf, but I don't really want to take a Mud Bomb. Luckily, Woody is the perfect Pokemon here because I can switch him in on a Mud Bomb, which he's immune to. Woody then baits a Blizzard, so I can send Jessie in, mostly risk 3. Obviously a 3s would be bad here, but everything works out, meaning I'm then able to KO with a single Surf. That just leaves Dewgong, who even with a crit can't threaten Andy, so I send him in and then KO with a Thunderbolt. Easy. 6 gyms down, 2 more to go. With Price down, I'm immediately able to go face Jasmine, the Steel type gym leader. You know how that last fight was pretty easy, but I at least had to switch around, which took a little bit of thought? Well, Jasmine can't even manage that, as Jessie is able to one-shot all of their Pokemon with Surf. I find it interesting that Jasmine has one of the best types in the game, but still manages to suck. That just leaves one more gym to go then, and Claire is not going to go down easy. Before we can get to that though, we've got a lot of tedious Team Rocket stuff to do first. Luckily, despite a rival fight and 400 Rocket admins, none of this is really very difficult. This means that Team Rocket is dispatched with relative ease, and then we can start making our way towards Claire and her dragons. On the way, we find one more notable encounter, a Swinub I name, Swinub. How I didn't name this thing and then didn't even notice that I hadn't named it, I have no idea. So welcome aboard, Swinub. I hope, despite forgetting to name you, you prove useful. Before we know it then, we arrive at Claire and her scary dragons. The last few gyms have been a complete joke, but Claire is anything but. Her Kingdra is likely to one-shot every single one of my Pokemon if I'm not careful, and even before getting to that, I have to get past her Dragonairs and her Gyarados. This is not going to be easy. Claire starts with Gyarados, and I start with Tentacool. I've given Bullseye a Choice Scarf to avoid the risk of the flinch here, so I can freely set up a layer of Toxic Spikes. However, there's still no way for me to really play around the crit. My luck holds out though, so this run isn't ended so easily. With Toxic Spikes set up, I can switch into Andy, who takes a Weak Bite, and then a risk 3 Dragon Rage before KOing with a single Thunderbolt boosted by a Magnet. Then the Dragonairs start coming out, and luckily Andy baits a Fire Blast. This means I can get Jessie in somewhat safely and then start KOing. Jessie is able to KO both of Claire's Blue Serpents with a single Ice Beam each thanks to Choice Specs. That just leaves the Kingdra. I've bought Pokemon that are immune to all of Kingdra's different moves, so I should be fine to switch Protect long enough to stall out the Kingdra here. So I switch into Hannah on what I expect to be a Hyper Beam, as that should do the most damage, into Jessie, but Hannah takes a really strong Dragon Pulse instead. That's bad. I guess Kingdra saw the KO with both of its attacks. After stalling through another turn with Protect, I am able to make the correct switch this time into Molly, who is immune to Hydro Pump. Another Protect brings the dragon down to 50%, and then I switch back into Hannah on what I again assume will be a Hyper Beam, but instead Hannah takes another Dragon Pulse that leaves her on 3 HP. Again, I assume Kingdra saw the KO with both Dragon Pulse and Hyper Beam there. This is looking bad. I might not have the HP to stall out this monster much longer. I have to keep trying though, but now I'm in a really bad spot. I decide to send Molly back in because there's a 50-50 chance of Kingdra going for Dragon Pulse here or Hydro Pump, but in my panic, I accidentally send in Jessie, the Geodude, instead, and Kingdra goes for a Hydro Pump. Well, that's it then. I've just lost. Unless Hydro Pump misses, Jessie really is the best. Not only is this run alive, but I'm now in the perfect position to send out the other Jessie on a guaranteed Hydro Pump and then KO with a Thunderbolt. I really should have just lost this run, but somehow my Geodude is actually just the main character and can't die. It's Geodude's world, we're all just living in it. What a legend. With that, we've won our 8th and final gym badge. Now we've got a decent amount to do before we get to our final challenge, the first of which is the Kimono Girls. Luckily, I've got enough Pokemon to pretty easily handle them with low risks. Woody is easily able to KO the Umbreon and Espeon. Jessie has to take a risky Fire Blast, but then is able to one-shot the Flareon. Jolteon is completely destroyed by our other Jessie, and then finally Vaporeon is dispatched by Mrs. Potato. Had to risk one crit there with Jessie, but otherwise that was pretty straightforward. It's then time to go face the legendary Pokemon Lugia, and usually I just run away from legendaries and make a joke about it. This time though, I decide to fight it. Why not actually fight this thing? Okay, holy sh**. Maybe that's why we don't fight legendaries. Let's just leave. With all of that story stuff out the way, I can head into Kanto and make my way towards the Pokemon League. You may be wondering what my plan is for dealing with all of the trainers between here and the Pokemon League, because surely they'd be an issue for my unevolved Pokemon, right? Well, the vast majority of them I can run past, and the ones I can't are so underleveled, even with fully evolved Pokemon, they go down pretty easy. God, Johto sucks. Speaking of being easy and sucking, once we get through Victory Road, we do have one last rival fight to deal with, but this proves pretty straightforward thanks to our level advantage. Buzz lights the Sneasel on fire, Jessie is able to one-shot the Feraligatr, our second Jessie breaks my rival's Magnet in half with an Earthquake, Haunter goes down to another Thunderbolt from Andy, Kadabra goes down to an X-Scissor from Woody, and then that just leaves one annoying Golbat who eventually goes down to Rock Throws. Nice and easy warm-up before the Elite Four, and we're even rewarded with one last encounter before we leave Victory Road, a Rhyhorn we named Stinky Pete. We've come to our last challenge of this journey then, so let's see who we're bringing to the Elite Four for our final showdown. First up is Hannah the Mischievous, second is Stinky Pete the Rhyhorn, third is Jessie the Staryu, fourth is Andy the Magnemite, fifth is Swinub the Swinub, yes I never remembered to rename him, and last but certainly not least, we've got Woody the Scyther. We've made it through this game without a single death so far, but a string of bad luck could end this entire run. Let's go see if we've got it what it takes then to become champions. Oh, and I assumed if you've made it this far, you're probably somewhat enjoying this video, so remember to leave a like and subscribe for more in the future. It's appreciated. So first up for this Elite Four is Will the Psychic type trainer. I could try and hype this fight up, but I'm just going to be straight with you guys. I kind of just click Shadow Ball 5 times and win. Good start to this Elite Four, 1 down, 3 to go. Up next is Koga, who requires slightly more effort than Will, and when I say slightly more effort, I mean I just have to set up 2 Swords Dances before sweeping with Woody. Jesus, this is easy. I'm sure the rest of this Elite Four will be more difficult. Nope, I just set up Sweep, Bruno, and Karen with Woody. This is meant to be challenging, right? Despite a very easy Elite Four, Lance is going to be an issue. Doing this fight deathless is actually fairly difficult because of the amount of luck required. Crits and flinches could very easily end this entire run, so let's hope our luck holds up for this final fight. Let's go see if we can win this. So Lance starts with Gyarados and I start with Andy. My first major issue of this fight starts right here, because if I give Andy a Focus Sash, I don't have to worry about a critical hit, but if I give him a Citrus Berry, I don't have to worry about flinching. Obviously, I can't play around both of these problems, so I decide to prepare for the most likely one, which is being flinched. Luckily, neither happen, and Andy is able to get off a Thunderbolt for the one-shot. Second is Charizard, so I switch into Stinky Pete, who eats a Fire Fang like it's nothing. I then immediately run into my second issue of this battle, Air Slash Flinches. Stinky Pete doesn't have great special defense, and I'm probably going to need her to handle the Aerodactyl as well. That means if I get flinched here a couple of times, I'm in real trouble. Luckily though, my luck holds up, and Air Slash doesn't get the flinch, and then Stinky Pete lands a Stone Edge. Perfect. Next, the first of Lance's Dragonites comes out. Thankfully, I'm in a pretty good position here though, because Stinky Pete is baiting a Blizzard from Dragonite, which means I can get Jessie in somewhat safely. Like every turn in this battle, this isn't completely risk-free, because I do have to risk a threes and a crit on the switch, and I don't like making so many risky plays in a row, but because I'm doing this deathless, I don't really have a choice. Jessie does manage to avoid a threes on the switch though. We're still in this so far. Jessie is then able to pick up an easy KO with an Ice Beam, and then on the following turn, the second Dragonite comes out and is easily dispatched with another Ice Beam. Annoyingly, Lance then sends out his Aerodactyl instead of his last Dragonite, meaning I have to switch again. I decide on Andy, who should be able to take a few hits and then maybe even one shot with a Thunderbolt, so I switch him in on a Crunch that doesn't do a huge amount before taking a massive amount from a Rock Slide. Okay, that's bad, especially because Andy then low rolls, meaning the Aerodactyl survives on less than 10 HP. Come on Andy, can't let me down right at the end. Got one more shot to KO with Andy here as the Aerodactyl gets healed on the following turn, and Andy high rolls, thank God. That just leaves Lance's last Dragonite, and I've reached my final decision of this run. Dragonite will probably see the KO with any of its moves here, so it's going to go for either Fire Blast, Hyper Beam, or Outrage. If I send Jessie in and the Dragonite goes for a Fire Blast, I probably will just win. But if it's one of the other two moves, or I get crit, it's game over. I do have a way to increase my odds of getting Jessie back in safely, however, and that's Confusion. If I can stall long enough for the Dragonite to confuse itself after using Outrage, Jessie has an even higher chance of coming in and surviving. So I decide to switch back into Stinky Pete on an Outrage that very nearly KOs. Clearly made the correct decision in not switching straight into Jessie. I can then stall through a turn with a Protect, but Outrage still doesn't confuse the dragon. Luckily, I'd given Hannah a Focus Sash, meaning she can come in and survive one more turn, meaning the fat dragon is finally confused. That's it then, all comes down to one last throw of the dice, so I send Jessie in, the Dragonite breaks through the confusion, but does go for Fire Blast. Can Jessie survive? Unfortunately no, at the last hurdle, Jessie has fallen. My remaining team members are able to come in and finish off the Dragonite, but it's still a bitter victory because unfortunately we have lost this run under my rule set. Sucks to end on a loss, but doing this run deathless involved a lot of luck, and unfortunately we couldn't pull off a win at the end. I'm okay with that though, we gave it a pretty good shot. If you've made it this far, I'd just like to say a massive thank you for all your support, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all next time.